organization may want to collect NRIC, but increasingly you should be seeing less and less of that happening. Okay? Less and less. And this is the big thing. At the end of the day, the PDPC doesn't tell you you can collect, you cannot collect. What they tell you is you collect at your own risk. You collect at your own risk. And we all realize a lot of guidance from government agencies sometimes is like that. They don't tell you whether you can do or you cannot do. They tell you this is what the law is. Whether you can do, cannot do, you go and read the law. And then basically telling you you have to make your own decision. You can't tell you whether if you do, we'll prosecute or not. Okay? So this is more or less the approach they've also taken. You take it at your own risk. The guidelines are there to tell you these are various guidelines. If you are prepared to collect, you must be prepared to answer to your stakeholders. If somebody lodges a complaint about it, you then must be prepared to answer to your stakeholders why you are collecting. And then you must be able to, when PDPC starts investigating, justify to the PDPC. Okay? And it's also DISC. You collect your own risk because, we talk about this, NRIC is higher secret. You cannot store it on the same level of protection as any other personal data. So if you see people taking photos of NRIC or making photocopies and they store it the same way as per any other personal data, just lying on the shelf, one whole file of all the members' NRIC details and all, that technically can be a breach of your data protection obligations. Okay. Remember, highly sensitive, under lock it because of SingPass and a lot more things that the NRIC can unlock. Okay? What do we do then as businesses and as organizations? If you run a business and you actually still do collect NRIC or you need some form of identification, what do we do? So the PDPC itself also recognizes some businesses will want to still collect, right? These are various ways that you can get around or still comply with what the PDPA requirements are. Okay, you don't use NRIC, and there's a background to this, right? A lot of organizations use NRIC because it's a government issued identifier for every single person. So if you have 50,000 customers, you don't need to worry. If you file everybody by NRIC number, you know you will never have a duplicate. So for a lot of organizations, that becomes a very easy filing system. And then plus, if you want to sort by age, everything NRIC number, you can sort by age totally. If you want to do an age-targeted marketing approach, right? So the PDPC have said, even if you still want to do it, you need to stop using it as a convenient filing service. That was not what it was set up to do. You need to stop doing it. What else can you do? You use another identifier. You can ask the user. Nowadays, online registration, all of us are asked to select a username. So you select the username from there. Okay, can be one possible factor. You can set their username for them. For some organizations, for employees' records, a lot of our employees are given an employee number within the system for accounting record purposes, right? And that solves. It's easy in terms of generating the general ledger for the employee accounts. So that could be one. Using email addresses, a lot of the login IDs are now email addresses, mobile numbers, combinations, and this thing about partial NRIC numbers, which you have that in terms of using just the last 3 digits plus the alphabet. Okay? So nowadays, if you see anything being reported, if they still want to report about the NRIC number, this would be the very least that you will see happening. Last 3 digits, alphabet, nothing else. Okay? Last 3 digits, alphabet, nothing else. Again, resources. PDPC has given out a full document. I think this was about 20-page document explaining to you what to do with NRIC numbers. All the various things that can be done, and they even have created 1 or 2-page quick guide for you from the business perspective. Okay, So these are things that you can go and look at and go and refer to it. Roles and responsibilities of employees. Now, I won't go through much of this, it's a lot of detail, but I want to show you exactly, this is exactly what a DPO needs to do. So that when we talked about trying to appoint a data protection officer, can you see the amount of scope he needs to do? Ensuring compliance, okay, needs to be ensuring compliance for the organization, which means your 9 key obligations, right? You can actually outsource your DPO, that's one possibility, okay? It needs to be somebody who can be selected based on their existing roles. A lot of organizations who have in-house legal, in-house compliance, make them double up as a DPO. Then the next thing that happens will be that compliance officer usually quits. Because being a DPO takes a lot of work and they don't get a pay rise. Okay, so that has been one of the key things and key complaints a lot of DPOs will say. I cannot double hand, I cannot afford to. Too much things, too many things to do. Okay? So not just all these, can you see access and correction, we talked about it. When somebody wants to write to your organization to ask for the past 12 months how you have used my data, your DPO handles it. When somebody complains to your organization about leak of data, your DPO handles it. Okay. When there's training that's required to be done, your DPO handles it. So that's the level of things that your DPO needs to do. And it's its area of expertise, which means your CEO, COO may not know about these data issues. If something comes up, your DPO is the one that highlights it. Similar to how a CFO or CTO, Chief Tech Officer, Chief Financial Officer, highlights their areas of expertise in finance, in tech, the DPO highlights his area of expertise to the management. Okay? If PDPC asks questions in an investigation, your DPO manages it. That's the level of things that a DPO needs to do. Senior management, those of you who are running your own businesses and groups, or hold senior positions in an association or society, these are things that you will be asked to do. So you can see a lot of it is really putting your management support behind what your DPO needs to do. Okay? Helping to push for data protection training, making sure your employees, your staff, your stakeholders are all trained, resources, which means budget and manpower, right? And this is always key. How do you convince your CFO to release some of the expenses to the Department of Data Protection? Okay, usually it's by throwing